Warning, this content may be disturbing to some audiences. Subscribe, if you dare.
Scuba diving. I promise you, it's a completely different world down there and it's not ours. Hey everybody, welcome to ANECDOSED. People ask Reddit. What life-altering things should every human ideally get to experience at least once in their lives?
Number 1.
Commenter. Go somewhere isolated enough at night that you can see the full skyscape, including the band of the Milky Way. Person B. Don't remember where exactly, but me and my dad found this volunteer-run observatory somewhere on a peak in Oregon. They had a giant scope operated by a few people, and some hobbyists and students who had their own gear they'd let you use, but the coolest shit was being able to look up with your own eyes and see part of the Milky Way. I cannot describe to you the awe I felt. Everyone there was very passionate about astronomy and so helpful too, so the whole thing was an unforgettable experience. Person C. As someone who grew up where you can see the Milky Way, it is so weird to me that some people have never seen it. Even though I could see it on any non-cloudy night as a kid, I still will go out to a soybean field during any meteor shower to enjoy the show. The night sky is such a cool thing that somehow makes you feel very small but at the same time really connected with Earth. Person D. The first time I saw the Milky Way at a state park near my home, I cried. I laid down on the sand dunes and felt so infinitely insignificant staring up at our galaxy that I just became overwhelmed with emotion. Same thing when I saw Saturn for the first time through a huge telescope with my own eyes. Incredible. Person E. My family and I have made a tradition of going to Shenandoah National Park every year. It has some absolutely breathtaking views of the Milky Way. I've never seen so many stars in my life. Person F. This reminded me of a very clear memory I have of seeing the Milky Way for the first time. I grew up in a small town in Florida and Hurricane Katrina hit. My area wasn't as devastated as New Orleans, but it did cause damage to all the power lines in the town, so we had no electricity whatsoever. I was excited because I felt like something new was happening as my mom lit a bunch of candles around the house and it was a calm night. I went outside with my siblings onto our neighborhood street and oh my god, the night sky. The sky color was black, but it wasn't dark. There were just millions and billions of endless stars in the sky, wavering and brilliant. It almost looked like waves of stars swirling and filling in this infinite canvas of the galaxy. I was so amazed, and I then recognized, wow, this must be the Milky Way. I was in awe and could not believe this was over our heads every night. If we didn't have the power at night to hide the sky, we could see that beauty every night. I feel as if we all as a civilization saw this every night, we would take much more care of our Earth, knowing life can be so beautiful and precious. And in the grand scheme of the universe, we are just specks of dust. So worry less and just live. Person G. I go to northern Minnesota every year with some friends. There's nothing quite like taking a boat out into the middle of a lake in the dead of night and just staring. I was lucky enough to be up there during a smaller meteor shower. It's magnificent. Person H. One of the things I miss the most from my time in the Navy is walking the outside of the ship when we were out at sea in the middle of nowhere. With no light pollution, the entire sky was lit up and filled with stars. Barely even a blank spot between the stars and the band of the Milky Way, easy to see clear as day.
Number 2.
Commenter. Spending a day alone with no plans, completely at liberty, in a foreign city you've never been to before. Person B. One of my favorite travel experiences was a 12-hour layover in Seoul. I managed to see the oldest temple in town, go to a modern art museum, order/eat a meal meant for an entire family, but gifts for friends and family, accidentally get drunk from soju, and get cursed out in Korean by a bus driver. I still need to go back with more of a plan. Person C. My absolute favorite way to travel. Visit a new city. Stay in different neighborhoods each night and hike/walk to each spot each day. Have one goal of something you want to do or see that day and do it in your leisure so you can embrace spontaneity if it presents itself. If not, you can still look back and fully enjoy that one thing you knocked out each day. Also, eat every meal out, if possible. Love this. Person D. Did this in Tokyo, 10/10 do recommend. Just walk into random bars and ramen shops knowing no Japanese. It'll be fine, you'll have a great time and eat fantastic food. Literally, I know greetings in like 5 numbers. Person E. Living in China for 8 years, I have been to dozens and dozens of cities and towns and villages by myself all over the country with no plans. I also use my 2 feet to tear up every single inch of any city I live in or spend a significant amount of time in. Person F. I did this one day in Florence, Italy when I went with my university for a study abroad for travel and food writing class. Woke up, put in my headphones and just started walking aimlessly all over the city. I wrote one of my papers for the class on that day. What an awesome day it was. Person G. I had to do this in a stopover portion of a series of flights once. I wandered around Los Angeles for a day, just soaking up the sights and feeling like a world traveler or something. When I got to my destination and told my sister about it, she said that was pretty risky. Yeah, it was. But that feeling was so exhilarating. Person H. I was doing a program in New York and on the last day we had to check out at noon and I had a train back to Vermont at 5:30. The next 5.5 hours was one of my favorite travel experiences I've ever had. The program gave me an unlimited subway card, so I just had complete freedom to do what I wanted and explore without an agenda. Such a valuable experience to explore alone with no expectations and just see life in another place. Person I. While spending a few days in Amsterdam, I just got on a train and went to Rotterdam. Nobody knew I was there. Nobody was waiting for me to come back. I sat at the harbor and watched the ships passing till I felt like leaving. It was great.
Number 3.
Commenter. Being the person in a room that everyone else looks up to. Whether it be as a teacher or anything else. Just knowing I could make a difference in some kid's life was the best part of coaching tennis for me. Person B. When I did group therapy, one of the people who I really connected with was leaving and it was our last meeting with him. I wanted to tell him that I would miss having him there, and I looked up to him as a role model. Without skipping a beat, he responded in genuine surprise that he looked up to me. It was one of the most sincere moments I've ever experienced, and it was truly the last thing I expected him to respond with. I will never forget him or that moment. It's a memory that has reassured me in some of my lowest points. Person C. When I played Magic the Gathering growing up, I won 13 straight local tournaments and everyone just knew I was the best. It was a great feeling. People would come to me for advice or thoughts on a particular strategy, and one of the tournaments I couldn't go to because of other plans, the organizer made flyers telling everyone I wasn't going to be there to entice more people to attend because they'd have a better chance. That was a good feeling.
Number 4.
Commenter. Being debt-free. Person B. It is my goal in life to die debt-free. That's why I'm terrified of credit cards, library late fees, divorce, cars, student loans, children, and mortgage. I probably need to see a therapist about it, but I know I can't afford it. I try to live below my standard of living, so I'm not living. Person C. This past week, I became officially debt-free. I paid off my student loans and car a while ago. Those were the big ones, but I got my tax return, just decided to put it all into my credit card. That and an unsettled debt, and I was done. It was liberating to feel the burden of the big payment stop, but it feels better to have absolutely none of it. Person D. Girlfriend and I were drowning in debt. Combined, we were at $50,000 in debt. Sold our house and spent every single dollar of that profit paying everything off. We rent now and still have bills for living expenses, of course, but not having that $50,000 debt over our heads has been amazing. We have so much extra money. We don't charge anything to credit cards anymore, and if we do, for points/rewards, we make sure we pay it off ASAP. Recently got into a fender bender, deductible is pretty high, $1,000, and thankfully the insurance company is waiving it, but it was the first time that a sudden expense came on that we weren't having to scramble for. It's truly an amazing feeling of not being in debt and having emergency funds. Person E. When I paid off the final chunk of my student loans, I actually cried. It was such a huge drain on my entire life for so long. It was such a source of stress and hatred and fear. I was lucky to marry someone who saved every dime she ever earned, so she helped cover the bills while I built up the final $10,000 in my account. As soon as I clicked approve on the billing website, I started bawling, just saying thank you over and over again. Our only debt now is our mortgage, and it feels amazing. Person F. Literally my dream. I'm going to graduate with over $100,000 in loans. It's going to take me a long time to pay them off, but I'm determined to get a job in my field and work my way up to a good salary. I love architecture, and I want to love my job and not have to go home and worry about money. It really sucks to be in a position in which you have to sign up for loans with predatory interest rates, and I am going to work so hard to prevent my kids from having to do the same.
Number 5.
Commenter. Scuba diving. I promise you, it's a completely different world down there and it's not ours. You'll be amazed and maybe even get an understanding and a greater connection to our Earth and all the living things on this chunk of rock floating through space. Person B. It's like being on another planet. And having to communicate with others without using words is pretty cool too. Wow. Are you seeing this too? It's a really transforming experience. Person C. I was terrified of open water before I started diving, and now I can't imagine a life without it. I've gained so much respect for our oceans and marine life in it as a result, and am able to include my kids in it as well. If you're too scared to try diving, remember, be afraid and do it anyway. Life is about being scared and pushing forward through it. Person D. Even further, free diving. Being underwater and focusing on complete relaxation to conserve oxygen while being aware of your surroundings. It requires such discipline. At that moment your mind focuses on nothing but the present and everything else is out of mind and experiences such peace. Person E. Last year on our family holiday, my dad, who is an experienced scuba diver, paid for me to do my open water potty course over 5 days, and I did 10 dives in total. Had to do some things out of my comfort zone, like open my eyes in seawater, take my mask and breathing apparatus off and put them back on underwater. But don't get me wrong, I loved every minute of it, and now I can go and dive anywhere in the world with no assistance. Such a great feeling being able to breathe underwater and experience floating through the blissfulness of the ocean. Person F. Nothing quite stimulates the senses like feeling neutral buoyancy for the first time. While it may be cliche, I remember feeling like an astronaut, except I was right here on Earth. Another spectacular feeling occurred when I was in the process of my first open water dive, aka the checkout dive. My class was in a pond that resembled any regular fishing pond from the surface. When we descended below the waterline, however, it was a completely different perspective that made me appreciate nature so much more. I remember seeing the banks reach down with their cascading root systems from surrounding trees. Among the roots swam schools of bluegill and bass, as well as a few catfish lurking towards the bottom. One adult bluegill swam right up to me, merely feet from my goggle lenses, and looked me right in the eye. It was life-changing to be immersed in nature on such a level, and I am counting down the minutes until I can do it again. Make sure to share your personal story in the comments below and have the opportunity to be featured in a future video. Also, if you like these topics, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification button to continue seeing more content like this every day. See you next time.